interesting if you could address yourself to some of the striking statements that are in your tapes and books that I have read. I will give you an example of the sort of thing that could be answered, I think, relatively briefly and might be very stimulating. In one tape, you refer to marriage as that terrible institution. My question would be, could you elaborate? Do you think a young man and a young woman, for example, should live together without marriage? People should not live together. That kind of thing. And I have other...
All right, sir. Let's have some fun. Let's answer that question. We'll come back to this. One may live with another person, sexually or in relationship with another, and take the responsibility, entire responsibility, both of us, and continue with that responsibility. Not change when it doesn't suit you, when that other person doesn't satisfy you in various different ways, right? Or you go through marriage, which is get a license, go to church, and the priest blesses the couple, the whole. And there you are tied legally. And that tie legally gives you more feeling of more responsible, right? That you're held by law. Are you waiting for me to answer this? You're held there by law, and with it goes a responsibility that's, one thinks, enduring, lasting. What's the difference between the two? You're legally controlled. It takes time to get a divorce. You have children, and the children may hold you together for a while till they grow up. And then when they grow up, you say goodbye to each other perhaps, or get a divorce and all the rest of it. If the other, which is not legalized marriage, and if there is a responsibility, as much as in the other, and perhaps more, then what's the difference between the two? Either it is responsibility based on law, either the responsibility of convenience, necessity, comfort, and sexual and all other demands. Where is the question of love in all this? Right? Each one of us, each one, wife and the husband or girl and the boy or whatever it is, are they ever together except sexually? Whether they are legally married or not legally married. Together. hold hands in public, as they embrace each other in public as they do in this country. Right? In Asia, that's all considered immodest, and they do it quietly by themselves in their house. So, what's the difference between the two? And where is love in all this? Please answer this question for yourself. Is love the pursuit of desire? Is love pleasure, sexual and other forms of pleasure? Is love mere companionship depending on each other? Is love attachment? Go and inquire all this. And if one negates intelligently, because you see the reason of it, that attachment is not love, nor detachment. Remembrance of each other's past incidents and pressures and insults and all that, living together day after day, month, year after year. The stored up memories, the pictures, the imagination, all that is not love, surely. When you negate all this, which is through negation, you come to the positive. But if you start with the positive, you end up with negation. That's what you're all doing. Right? Am I saying things that which are true or incorrect? So, the gentleman asked a question. Why doesn't the speaker talk about all that? So, what is important in life? What is the root or the basic essential in life? As one observes more and more in televisions and literature, magazines, and all the things that are going on, it's becoming more and more superficial. Quick answers. If you're in trouble, go to a specialist. They'll tell you what to do. It's all becoming so superficial and vulgar, if I may use that word, without any sense of derogatory or insulting. It's all becoming so superficial and rather childish. And one never asks what is the fundamental questions or fundamental necessity or the depth of life. No, surely not beliefs, not dogmas, not faith, not all the intellectual rigmarole, whether the communist theology or the Catholic theology, Marxist theology, or Lenin or St. Thomas Aquinas. They're all the same theories, conclusions and ideologies based on belief, faith, dogma, rituals. So all that's becoming more and more in one's life, outwardly, very, very, very superficial, just out there. And we live like that. This is a fact. I'm not saying anything which is not so. And this marvelous world of entertainment, both religious and football, anything to escape, yell, shout, never quiet conversation, never look at anything quietly, beautifully. So what is the fundamental, basic demand or basic thing that is really utmost importance in one's life?
Want us to answer?
You can answer so if you want to.
The answer is compassion.
Yes.
Compassion.
I know, I've heard it. When you use that word, are you again using that word superficially? Or there's compassion in you? You understand? When you say yes, compassion, that becomes actually superficial. You have already stamped it. The word compassion means passion for all, not just for your family. And you cannot have compassion if you're attached to any belief, to any dogma. If there is not complete freedom, there cannot be compassion. And with compassion there is intelligence. So, if you say compassion, love is the root of all things in life, in the universe, in all our relationship and action. To find that out, to come upon it, and to live with it, and act from there. Then marriage or not marriage, then you are no longer an individual. There's something else entirely different from your one's own petty little self. Right, sir? Can we go? Another question you would like to ask on that level? Or can we go on with this question, which is really quite important if we can go into it seriously. We ask, can thought be aware of itself? That is, thought has created the thinker, right? Separate from his thought. Isn't that so? Have you got? That is, there is the thinker who then says, I must be aware of what I think. I must control my thoughts. I must not let my thoughts wander. So there is the thinker separate from his thought. And the thinker acts upon the thought. Right? Now, is the thinker different from thought? Or the thinking thought has created the thinker? You understand the question? There is no thinker without thought. Right? Do we meet each other on this? Please, because it's rather important. Because if you can find out why this duality exists in us, the opposite, the contradiction, the me and the thought. The me as the thinker, the one who witnesses, the one who observes, and the thing to be observed, right? That is, the thinker then controls thought, right? Shapes thought, puts thought into a mold. But is the thinker different from thought? Has not thought created the thinker?
I can see it logically.
Wait, sir. No. First of all, let's be logical. Or let us see it intellectually, which is what? Verbally. Verbally, I can see very clearly that there is the division between the thinker and the thought. And thought has created the thinker. So the thinker is the past, with his memories, with his knowledge, he's put together by thought, which has come into being after experiences and so on. So it is the whole activity of the past, the thinker. Agreed? Clear? And then it says thinking is something different from me, who is the thinker, right? You accept that logically, intellectually. Why? Not you, sir, but we all do. We all say, yes, I understand it intellectually, very quickly. But why? Why do we say that? I understand it intellectually.
Seems obvious.
No, go into it, sir. Why do we say, first reaction, I understand intellectually? Why? Is it not because we never look at the whole thing. We only look at something intellectually. Now, the speaker explained very carefully, logically, the thinker and the thought. And you accept that logically. And I said, why do you do that? Why does one do that? Is it that the intellect is highly developed with most of us? Or developed much more than our sensitivity, our immediate perception? Right? Of course. Because we are trained from childhood to memorize, right? To exercise the brain, which is certain parts of the brain, which is to hold what has been told, informed, and keep on repeating it. So when you meet something new, you say, I understand intellectually. But one never meets the new, totally whole, that is intellectually, emotionally, with all your senses awakened. You never receive it completely. You receive it partially, right? And the partial activity is the intellectual activity. It's never the whole being observing. You say, yes, that's logical. And we stop there. We don't say, why is it that only part of the senses are awakened? Intellectual perception is partial sensitivity, partial senses acting. To create a dynamo, to do that you have to think intellectually. There is, in creating a computer and putting computer together, you don't have to have all your emotions and your senses. You become mechanical and repeat that. So the same process is carried when we hear something new, say, I understand intellectually. We don't meet it entirely. So, this statement has been made, but we don't receive it totally. So the problem arises out of this. Why is it that we never meet anything, especially when you see a tree or the mountain or the movement of the sea, with all your senses highly awakened? Why? Is it not that we live always partially? That is, we always live in a limited sphere, limited space in ourselves. It's a fact. So to look, if you will now, look at those mountains with all your senses. Which means when that act takes place with all your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nerves, the whole response of the organism, which is also the brain, look at that whole thing entirely. Then when one does, there is no center as the me who is looking. Right? So, we're asking, can thought be aware of itself? It's a rather complex question because this requires very careful observation. Thought has created wars, right? Through nationalism, through sectarian religion, Catholic, Protestant, Hindu, Buddhist. Thought has created all this, right? You're quite sure. God has not created all this. The hierarchy of the church, the Pope, all the dress, all the rituals, the swinging of the incense, the candles, right? All that paraphernalia that goes on in a cathedral or in a church is put together by thought. Copied from some of it from the ancient Greeks, ancient Egyptians, and so on, from the ancient Hindus, Egyptians, Jews, and so on. It's all thought, right? I know you. So God is created by thought. A man who has no fear whatsoever of dying, living, problems, no fear whatsoever. Does he need God? So, thought has put all this together. One can see what thought has done, step by step, right? So, thought can be aware of its own action. You're following? I wonder if you're following all this. So that there is no contradiction between the thinker and the thought, between the observer and the observed. When there is no contradiction, there is no effort. It's only when there is contradiction, which is division, there must be effort. So to find out whether it's possible to live a life without a single shadow of effort, contradiction, one must find and investigate the whole movement of thought. And one hasn't the time or the inclination. One is too busy, too much to do. But one had plenty of time when one wants to do something. When you want to play golf, you have any amount of time. So to find out what the activity of thought, to watch it, that's part of meditation.